Okay, in this video, we're going to continue with continuous graphs points, going through graphs number 4 through number 6. So let's start with our x and our y intercepts. As a reminder, our x-intercepts are all of those pieces of the graph that are going to pass through our x-axis, which is this line right here. It doesn't have to actually go through this line necessarily, but it does have to touch this line. So if I'm looking at this graph, I have an x-intercept here, here, moving along, another one right here. Here, it doesn't go past it, but it does touch that purple line. And then again, over here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 x-intercepts. The first one is a little bit past -5. Call that one -5.2. The second one is a little bit before -5. So that's going to be about -4.8. Our third point is between -1 and -2, almost halfway, but a little bit closer to -1. So I'll say that's about -1.4. The fourth one's good. It's right on 2. No need to worry about that. And then our last one is a little bit past 5. Not much past it though, so I will call that one 5.1. Now for our y-intercepts. We have to go through this line now. Our graph only crosses that one time up here, and that is at 3. So our y-intercept is 0,3. Now that we have our x and y-intercepts, let's take a look at our absolute and maximums and our absolute minimums. So our top of our graph, our absolute maximum, up here, here's that point. That's the same thing as our y-intercept, 0,3. Now there is a problem here. Not a problem, but we've got these two arrows pointing down. Anytime my arrows are pointing downwards, that means I have no absolute minimum. So no absolute minimum because of the arrow pointing down towards -infinity. So absolute minimum, I'm going to say none. Let's finish it up with our relatives. I'm going to do the same thing I did in the last video. Let's draw a little stick. And at the top, I'm going to put blue dots. I can't put anything in the bottom because it's an arrow, but I will place a blue dot to represent a maximum at the top. Now I'm going to swing that stick over here. I'm going to put a green dot at the bottom there to represent my minimums. So the stick, blue on the top, green on the bottom. Swing it back to this little section. Green dot down here. Oops. Swing that over to this section. We need a dot at the top. And I can't put one over here because of the arrow. So there are our maximums and our minimums. We have maximums at -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, 1. 0, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, comma, 1. And these are all of our relative maxes. Now, as for our relative mins, 1, 2, 3, -3, comma, -2 is a relative min, and 2, comma, 0 is a relative min. So those are all of our key points for graph number 4. Let's move on to graph number 5 now. Got our x-intercepts, y-intercepts, maximum, no min because of those arrows, relative maxes, and relative mins. That should say relative. Now for graph number 5. Starting with those intercepts again. Got my line here. I have crossing points here, here, and here. Those ones are pretty easy to label. We've got -4, -2, and +3. As for our intercepts on the y-axis, we've got 1 over here, actually a little bit before 3, but I'm just going to call that one 3, round up a bit. Y-intercept, 0, comma 3. There's our x's and our y's. Moving over to our absolute maximums and minimums. Anytime I have a graph with an arrow, I want to take a look at that because that's going to affect my maxes and my mins. I've got 2 arrows pointing up towards positive infinity. That means I have no absolute maximum. No absolute max because arrows pointing up towards infinity. I will still have an absolute min though. The bottom of my graph is right over here. Here's that point. And that's about -3, -1.5. Now for the relatives. Starting at the beginning of the graph, I have an arrow, so don't need to put anything there. Move down, move down, move down, hit our minimum, move up, move up, move up. And before I can move back down, I have to throw a point in there. Move down, move down, move down. Before I finish moving back up, I'm gonna put another point, and then I go up to the arrow. My points are gonna be alternating between those mins and those maxes. This one we already know is -3, -1.5. It's a relative min. This one is our intercept, so we know that was 3, 0. And that's also a relative min. Here, our maximum, that's about a little off center. I'm gonna call that about 0.2, 3.1. And as long as your numbers are somewhere around there, it would have been fine. So those are our maxes, our mins, and then our x, y's, and absolutes on the right. We have one more graph left in this video and in this homework assignment. Let's take a look at that. X's, y's, no max. There's our min, relative max, relative mins. Our final graph here. x-intercepts. I feel like we've seen enough of these graphs to know we have to look at this x-axis. So we're going to cross there, right there, here, here, and here. We're going to have a lot of decimals for this one. So I'm just going to estimate those. Right before -8, so let's say that's -7.9. Right before -4, so let's call that -3.9. Right after 1, so let's say that's 1.1. Right after 2, let's say that is 2.1. And before 6, I'm going to call that 5.8. Now for our y-intercepts, it crosses here. That's pretty much in the center, so I will say that's 1.5. No arrows on this graph, so I do have absolute maximums and absolute minimums. For me, I like to draw this line at the top just because I can verify that there's only one dot. Sometimes there's two maximums, and then we miss one of them. So this helps us to see that that is in fact the tallest point. So our tallest point up here at 4,8. Now our lowest point is down here, and that is at 7, -6. Make sure I put those parentheses around the numbers. And now we're just going to go back and forth, maximum to minimum for our relatives. I'm just going to start on this right side since I already have the first 2 points. I have a relative minimum at 7, -6. Switch to a relative maximum at 4, 8. I will switch right on back to a minimum at 2, -1. My next point will be a maximum at -2, 4. Then back down to a minimum at -6, -5. And finishing it up, we will end the graph at a maximum at -10, 6. +6. So again, those very top points are our maximums, the bottom ones are minimums. Even if it's an absolute maximum, it is still an absolute minimum. That's the end of the points video. If you need help with intervals, there will be another video posted for that later.